of man and machine. 200 miles, 200 laps. This tiny bull ring has beckoned the IndyCar drivers for 24 years. In a few minutes, the planning of the winter is over. But the time for guesswork is over. Proof is into the performance. Today, it's the Checker 200 from the CART IndyCars at Phoenix International Raceway. And it's typical Phoenix weather, 85 degrees. Perhaps more important, the winds are gusting up near 30 miles an hour. That's going to cause some trouble with handling on these cars today. 23 drivers, 23 men looking for their share of a purse of over $400,000 and perhaps the opportunity to break Roberto Guerrero's race record from last year. Hello, I'm Paul Page, and it's a very special time as we're ready to start the IndyCar season. Extra special because it was 10 years ago at this very track that CART sanctioned its first race. Gordon Johncock won that race, and since that time, the purse has been going up and up and up, and the attendance has been absolutely spectacular. In fact, even as we speak, there's over a 3.5-mile line of cars still trying to get into this track. This, of course, is our lead-up to the Indianapolis 500-mile race. Live today from Phoenix. Live a week from today from the streets of Long Beach, again with the IndyCars. Then the pole day of qualifying at the Indianapolis 500, and the granddaddy of them all, the Indianapolis 500 itself, on the Memorial Weekend. Well, it makes for a very exciting season that we're about to see. A lot of questions, though, to be answered. Questions that have been asked since last year and throughout the winter. Some of those have already been answered. Let's go to the front row and Jack Arute.
Paul, they represent two questions that already have been answered. The first one, the re-emergence of the Penske team. It's been 2 years since a Penske-originated design, a PC design car, has been competitive in IndyCar racing. But this man that's being strapped in his machine right now, Rick Mears, put a new PC design car on the pole and missed the record by only 7 1/1000ths of a second. Another question that was answered, a more life-threatening one. Just 6 months ago, this man, Roberto Guerrero, lay unconscious at the end of September. The question was whether he would ever come back and be competitive again, let alone race a race car. Well, he's back. He's on the outside pole, and maybe, just maybe, he'll repeat his victory of 1 year ago. Now, another question that's been keeping the phone lines and the attention of Stuttgart and America really abuzz throughout the winter is that of the Porsche. And with that story, here's Jerry Gaffins.
Actually, several questions with the Porsche. First of all, how long will Porsche Pride put up with running a March car like they're doing here today instead of their home-built unit? The second question, the Porsche engine, the power plant here. Last year, Chevy had the question engine on the circuit. How long will this Porsche engine last? Will it go the distance? That's a big question mark for this season. And then the driver himself, Teo Fabi, as you see him being strapped into his race car. Fabi has not driven an oval for 3.5 years, and is he still fast in Indy cars? Those are the kind of questions that might not only be answered here today, it might take all year to find out those answers. Paul Page.
Now, Jerry Gaffins, throughout the winter, there are, as usual, changes. First of all, and perhaps most notable, Al Unser Jr. leaves his team with Doug Shearson and goes back to the team he started in the Indy cars with Rick Gallis. Perhaps even more important is a list of drivers that are no longer involved in the Indy cars on a regular basis. There are 8 Indianapolis 500-mile race wins represented in that list. Those men are now replaced on a regular basis by another group of men. Some of them have been in the Indy cars before, others are brand new to the sport with a lot of lessons about to learn. Well, Sam Posey, the first race of the season, the first time, all the guesswork about to go out the window, it makes for a very special day.
Well, yes, and a special kind of tense magic, really, to these moments just before the start of the first race. You know, it seems to me that it's just, in some ways, it's a clean slate for everybody still. There are no points that have been scored. It's a little bit like those moments just before dawn, before the light comes and gives shape to everything. I mean, the rookies have absolutely no idea what's ahead for them here, and even the veterans with new teams and new cars are about to find out what their 1988 season is going to be like. You know, you have to be a born optimist to be involved with the sport in the first place, because the odds against any individual really succeeding, even the best guys. And yet, and then over the winter, that optimism has full flower. We've now come to the moment where the optimism is going to face reality. You can see what's happened.
You couldn't pick a tougher challenge than Phoenix International Raceway. Bobby Unser, you've raced here. You know that this is a tough track to tune for, to set up for, and a very tough track to drive.
It's going to be, Paul. Number one, I was talking to Vince Granatelli yesterday with Guerrero's car and with Al Jr. on his car, and they tell me that 1/4 of a turn adjustment on any of the wings puts the cart completely out of contention, out of being competitive. The heat made a big difference yesterday. It was terribly hot yesterday. It's kind of cool today, but we have a bad wind coming out of the east, gusting real heavy sometimes. That's going to change all the handling, but what does it all mean? I think it's going to bring most of the cars closer to being competitive. Some of them are going to miss the handling, but it's cool enough where the tires won't get too hot.
Well, we've been guessing all winter long, so now it's over. Now it is time to go racing. This ABC Sports Exclusive is being brought to you by AC Delco, automotive parts that don't just fit, they match. By Stroh's and Stroh Light, fire brewed for a more smooth, consistent taste. And by Pennzoil Motor Oil, the standard for protection since 1889. Well, the drivers are strapped in. The final countdown has begun. We'll be back in just a moment. 200 at Phoenix International Raceway. And the drivers all sit poised, ready. It is time for that most famous command, the first time of the year. And there you heard it. Giving the command was Miriam Seward. She is the wife of Dan Seward, the CEO and president of Northern Automotive, one of the sponsors of this event. Rick Mears in position, ready to go as the engines begin to roar into life. Mario Andretti poised and ready. Rick Mears already showing some perspiration. Bobby Rahal calmly waits, ready to roll off. As this field is set and ready to go, all engines are started and we're ready to go racing. Let's take a look at the starting grid. On the pole is Rick Mears. His only win here came in 1982, alongside Roberto Guerrero. This is his first race since his near-fatal crash last fall. The second row on the inside is Mario Andretti. His 35th race at Phoenix. He has won twice. Al Unser Jr. is alongside. He has never won here in Phoenix. The third row on the inside, Arie Luyendyk looking for his first IndyCar win. The same is true of the man on the outside, Scott Brayton, looking for his first as well. The fourth row on the inside, A.J. Foyt. He won the first race here. He's won 3 times since then. Danny Sullivan sits alongside. He's led 3 times, but he has never won at Phoenix. The inside of the fifth row, Teo Fabi, driving for the Porsche team. He's the 83 winner. On the outside is Michael Andretti. He loves the tight, mild tracks. Inside the sixth row, Dick Simon, at age 55, is the oldest man in IndyCar racing, still looking for his first win. Alongside the defending national champion, Bobby Rahal. A pop-off valve bled his horsepower away during qualifying. He should do better in the race. The field rolls away now as we take a look at the 7th row. Both men from Brazil. Row 7, Raul Boesel and Emerson Fittipaldi. The 8th row, Ireland's Derek Daly and Howdy Holmes. The 9th row, young John Andretti and Randy Lewis. The 10th row, John Jones, a rookie, and Kevin Cogan. The 11th row, Scott Atchison and Tony Bentonhausen. And the lone occupant of the 12th row, Billy Vukovich III, the grandson of the 2-time Indianapolis winner. Now let's take a look at this 1-mile track at Phoenix International. An 11-degree bank in the first 2 turns, but most notable that dog leg, that little bend in the backstretch, which gives them a whale of a run going into turn 3 and 4, which is banked 9 degrees. That's the challenge here today. 200 laps, 200 miles around this circuit. Here are the engines and the chassis that will race today. Perhaps most notable here is the fact that the Porsche engine is being used, but it is mounted in a March chassis.
You see the predominance of the Cosworth engines. More teams have chosen that than anything else, but the Cosworth is now being rivaled by the Ilmore Chevrolet, which many people think, and this is Emerson Fittipaldi's car, with, by the way, the very Chevrolet engine in it. I was about to mention, people are starting to use the Chevrolets, but they are said to be more powerful, but perhaps not yet as reliable as the Cosworth ball.
An unusual situation. He's sitting up high on the course in the 3rd turn, and he obviously has no power.
Well, he probably has an electrical problem, Paul. Maybe a wire was left loose on it when they put the body on it or something like that, but unfortunately, he's liable to end up losing some because he's going to have to get it started. That man can't push it all the way in. They'll have to have the starter in the pits to get it started. Now, it looks like they're going to pull him with the rope. Now, if that works, he can start it with the rope.
He'll just move into the last position in the starting field unless they really slow the race down and give him some time to move into his position.
They don't have starters on board these cars, so what he will do now probably is pop the clutch once he's up to a certain amount of speed, and if the car can be started, we'll see it start. If not, then he will have to be dragged into the pits.
Of course, his hope is that that engine will catch as the field begins now to string by, and Fittipaldi is making a turn down the pit road, hoping that he will roll far enough to get into his pits.
He most likely was doing what Sam said, trying to start it, Paul, but it wouldn't start, so he's going to come in the pit. They'll take the top off it right away and see what's the matter with the car. Most likely they'll get it running.
Terrible blow for Emerson Fittipaldi.
Yeah, we're probably going to have the start on, what, the next lap, don't you think, Paul, or possibly two?
Let's go down to Checker Route.
Paul, here is where you begin to scratch your head, and a lot of tension here in the Emerson Fittipaldi pit. Their first choice is going to be to change the spark box. They think that may be indeed the problem. Let's go back up topside to Paul Page. Paul?
Well, the field beginning to assemble up on the backstretch, looking like they are coming into formation and ready to go. The spark box, the black box on that car, really the first thing you change because it's the easiest, and often it is the solution to the problem. There's the front row. Roberto Guerrero on the outside, Rick Mears on the inside.
Chevrolet's had a lot of trouble with their spark boxes last year, Paul. Remember that. We could see more of it today.
The ambient air temperature going into the 90s today could be a cause of that problem. They seem very sensitive to heat buildup in the car. Now the field in between the third and fourth turn. And Rick Mears begins to pick up the pace as the pace car comes off. Pace comes up now. Revs begin to come up. Mears keeps the field nicely in control. They bunch up. There's the green flag from Nick Finoro. And we are racing in the first race of the season as Rick Mears puts his nose ahead going in the first turn. And now Roberto Guerrero comes out and around. Guerrero looking very strong as he comes to the backstretch. That's just some dust that he passed over. And Rick Mears jumps into the lead.
There's an example between a Cosworth and a Chevrolet. Rick Mears has a Chevrolet. Roberto Guerrero has a Cosworth. That was a drag race right off another two turns.
Well, it certainly worked for Rick Mears at the end of the lap because Mears now leads it, followed by Roberto Guerrero, and Al Unser Jr. dropped into third, followed by Mario Andretti and Scott Brayton.
Remember that it's been 3 or 4 years since we've seen Rick Mears in a Penske car dominate a race like this right off the box. I mean, they have won races in that period, but we haven't seen this kind of domination. Were it to continue, if this is a reliable combination, and that's the biggest question now, we are going to be in for a season of watching this car out front.
The fight now between Mario Andretti and that white car and Al Unser Jr. just in front. It is a battle now for third place as Rick Mears pulls away from Roberto Guerrero, and Roberto Guerrero just sits quietly in second.
This is also a battle of the chassis. Let's remember now, Al Unser Jr. is in a March car, Andretti is in a Lola. They're having a battle. It's going to be interesting. Both of them have Chevrolet engines. It's just the chassis are different right there. Let's see which one is going to be the best as the handling goes, Paul.
You're on board now with Danny Sullivan. He runs in the 6th place. And this is the most spectacular view of an Indy car I've seen to date. Look at that. You can watch the suspension work. Danny, as he massages the tires around, trying to keep them adhered, keep them on that edge without letting it go too far and losing control of the race car.
Now, he's in turn 1, the turn 1-2 combination, and what the only thing you do not see from this wonderful onboard camera is the G-forces. Last year, Jack LaRue did a wonderful demonstration which shows that in these tight turns, the helmet is almost pulled to the outside of the turn as if a bowling ball was attached to it. This car wants to slide out to the right.
Bobby Rahal, the car on the left, the red number 1. He started back in the field. Rahal really didn't have a good qualifying. He started in 12th place, but really has only been able to move up a little bit. Perhaps his theory is to play it safe and watch what's happening at the front without losing contact.
Well, Paul, I've been watching him during the practice Friday and Saturday just before this race, and Rahal hasn't been as fast as he normally is when he comes to an IndyCar race. So I suspect a new chassis for him this year, and remember now, they're in that Judd Honda engine. Last year they were in a Cosworth engine, so they may be having a few little learning problems right now.
That's Derek Daly sitting just behind him, running in the 12th position, trying to contest with Bobby Rahal. and he's really giving him a good little run. He's sticking right with him.
Yeah, I disagree, Paul, with any thought that Rahal might be just contenting himself with where he is. I mean, for one thing, he's being threatened by Derek Daly, who's doing a beautiful job here. I think Rahal, if he could move up and dice with the leaders, you see what's happening there. He doesn't like that, and that is a lack of power, don't you think, Bobby?
Yes, that's what it looks like. It isn't normal for Rahal to be passed by Daly. Daly's a good race driver, but that team just...
Oh, howdy Holmes, so there's a trouble. I mean, the car is not that uncompetitive. Bobby Rahal's got a problem with the car now, no question about it.
In the qualifying, his pop-off valve opened up a little bit early, letting the engine horsepower drain away, so he started in 12th position back in mid-pack. But then in the final practice yesterday, we really expected him to do better. He did, in fact, go very fast and was third quickest of the session, so we really expected him to move forward. Obvious that hasn't happened. Emerson Fittipaldi is back out of the pits and is running, but he is running slow.
All right, here's Rick Mears ahead. He's now 2.5 seconds plus ahead, and he's already lapping slower cars. That's the kind of action. There's Rahal into the pits. That's the kind of action that you get on a 1-mile oval. Lots of passing.
So Bobby Rahal comes to a stop. Let's go to Jerry Gaffins.
As you see now, they'll take the rear cover off the engine. The same problem we saw with Emerson Fittipaldi. They're going to change the spark box. The difference between this, they're using the new Judd power instead of the Chevy power like Fittipaldi had. So already electronics playing a big problem for these teams here at Phoenix so far, Paul Page.
So that's really a gamble. They switched from an engine that they knew very well. They picked up the Judd Honda Brabham that's run under a number of names, and obviously they have a problem with it here early.
That's a total electronic management engine on that car. That's a car that we were expecting to get more gas mileage or more fuel mileage than any of the other competitors today, and might have won because of that. But it looks like now it's going to be to no avail.
All right, so Rick Mears is our leader. Roberto Guerrero runs in second place, followed by Al Unser Jr., Mario Andretti, Scott Brayton, Danny Sullivan, Arie Luyendyk, Michael Andretti, and A.J. Foyt runs in ninth. To complete, Rick Mears has nearly half a lap lead on the second place car of Roberto Guerrero, followed by Al Unser Jr., Mario Andretti, and Scott Brayton. Bobby Rahal was in the pits for over 2 minutes. And, of course, Emerson Fittipaldi had his long stop of 3 minutes and 19 seconds. But now, another surprise, Danny Sullivan appears to be out of the race. Jack Arute?
Paul, he's just taking off his gear right now. And, Danny, it's not a long day for you. A red light of sorts went on.
Yes, unfortunately, we had this problem late yesterday where the oil light came on and we couldn't find anything wrong. Looks like a collapsed oil filter yesterday. So we changed that, thought the engine was okay, and the light came on again, and the engine started to seize up on me coming out of 2, so.
A torrid pace by your teammate, Rick Mears. Can he sustain it all day?
I think so. Yeah, it seems like we've had the problems all week, and he hasn't, so our fingers are crossed. He's been running awful good, and I think if he doesn't have any mechanical problems, nobody will touch him.
Well, that seems the way it always is with the Penske team. One fellow has bad luck, the other fellow has good. Back to you.
You know, Jack Arute, that is a fascinating point. As we watch, there's the leader, Rick Mears. He touched with Randy Lewis and spins. Let's see if he keeps the engine going, if he can keep the car going. I don't think so.
The car's damaged, Paul. Look at the left rear tire. It's gone flat. That was heavy contact.
How sad. Our first yellow flag of the day comes on the 22nd lap, and it involves Rick Mears. Danny Sullivan just said there was no way you were going to catch him. Well, that's one way.
And that was at a time, you see Roger Penske there, where Rick Mears was averaging more than 2.5 miles an hour faster laps than the second place driver, Roberto Guerrero. That was his domination, and of course it's over.
A disappointed man, Roger Penske, was hoping for his 50th IndyCar win with Rick Mears here today. Rick stays in the car on the main stretch, and we're under yellow.
Oh, that appeared like that wasn't Rick's fault. That was being a victim of circumstances. He was passing Randy Lewis on the outside, and Randy clipped him.
Roger Penske in radio contract with his driver now.
Roger, you were talking to Rick on the radio after he crashed. What did he say?
Well, he just said the guy was in the middle of the straightaway and thought he saw him, and evidently didn't. He said, you know, he made a mistake. I guess he thought the fellow had seen him, and you know, it's one of those things, unfortunate, but we're running good, which is the main thing.
Absolutely. Now that leads me into Long Beach. You know, this is a tough one, a bitter pill to swallow, but you don't have to keep it down for too long. You've only got a week before you can prove it again.
Well, I think that the road course will be something different. We'll see how the car runs there. Obviously, it was competitive here on the ovals. It's one of those things on a tight 1-mile track. the traffic is the toughest thing that we can do, but we'll see what happens.
We talk about how quick things can happen at Phoenix. There were 2, then there was 1, and now there are none from the Penske team on the racetrack.
What a great disappointment for the Penske team as we take a look at Rick Mears still sitting in the car. The bright yellow machine, that's Rick. As he moves up, they tell all the drivers, keep an eye on your mirrors, keep out of the way. And it looked like Randy Lewis just kept coming up.
Yes, but Randy Lewis was still coming out of the turn when that happened, and Rick, he would have had to look back right at that moment. Bobby, don't you agree that's a tough moment to have to look back in your mirror?
He was, Rick was more than halfway up on Randy, Sam. Randy should have seen him and should have given him racing room. He already knew that he was being lapped. I just don't see that there was much of an excuse for that.
Rick did a remarkable job keeping the car away from that wall as he spun around on the main stretch. We have another opportunity to take a look at this situation. There was an interesting conversation that I was part of yesterday as we take a look at Scott Brayton, who is the leader on the track at the moment. Most of the leaders have gone in and made their pit stops, and this will lead us to a conversation of tactics in just a moment. But let's take a look again at this, Bobby.
Now you can see Randy coming out. Rick has to come back because of the wall. He has to have that line. Randy is still going out to the wall. The cars are locked up right there. I don't really believe it hurt Rick's car much. It just was a simple matter. There wasn't enough racing room for it.
All right, now that conversation that I was part of yesterday was Michael and John Andretti and Billy Vukovich III. They were both asking Michael, what do you do if you're running slow here? And he said, come off the corner in the middle, go right down the middle of the track, even if you see the move-over flag, because the leaders will split you on either side. Just give you a car length to the wall and make sure there's plenty of room to the inside. Well, that didn't happen there. We watched Teo Fabi. That is a March. It is powered by a Porsche. Last-minute decision to change the chassis, get the engine some testing, and hopefully get the Porsche chassis working. It is not working properly yet. It currently runs in 13th place, but it is really an excellent job by Teo Fabi that got the car here. Let's take an opportunity to take a look at the saga of the Porsche.
The lifeblood of the Porsche company is racing. When they win, and Porsche usually does win, sales boom. To boost their U.S. market, an assault on IndyCar racing was begun last fall, but the car has been slow, and Porsche management has had to admit they have a problem.
Before you can solve a problem, you have to understand the problem, and that's the phase that we're in right now, I believe. In addition to that, I think people have to realize that this series is absolutely one of the most competitive sporting events in the world. And you just, no matter who you are, you just don't waltz in and take the cake.
No team in IndyCar racing builds both their own chassis and engine, yet this is what Porsche, ambitious and proud, chose to do. After the car's disappointing debut, they dug in for a winter of testing. After courting Al Unser and Mario Andretti, they signed ex-Formula One driver Teo Fabi. They swallowed their pride and bought a March chassis. Just yesterday, Fabi, in the March, qualified a decent ninth, but still, you had to wonder, had Porsche just plain underestimated the Indy scene?
The answer is yes, they do underestimate the American ingenuity and stick-to-itiveness and the difficulty, the uniqueness of the racing.
So the Porsche out on the track runs in 13th place. Rick Mears stays with his car. He's down there still in the cockpit. Perhaps he thinks that they might be able to effect some repairs and get it done. Jack Arute is right there.
Well, Paul, as you can see, Rick Mears is still strapped in this machine. They intend to change all 4 tires and hopefully put it back out on the race course. Inspection continues on the car to make sure that there are no mechanical malfunctions that they can't see right off, but they feel like they can get back in this race, albeit a couple of laps down. Back to you.
Well, we were talking about the Porsche entry. What do the drivers think of this brand new machine? Yesterday, during a quiet moment, we had a chance to talk with them about it and found out what they thought of the Porsche effort.
They're a great addition. Technically, I think they add an incredible amount of interest. And at the moment, they're feeling their way around. They just don't want to go out there and just copy anyone else.
There are more car manufacturers involved. It might get a few more people in Detroit off their backsides and get involved in a great form of racing in the United States.
I'm sure they'll be very tough. I think this year they may have a little bit of a hard time. You know, they're new to it completely. But I bet within maybe next year, even 2 years at the most, they'll be definitely front runners.
Well, I think they've got their work cut out for them. And I think anybody that gets into this sport is going to have their work cut out for them. I think it's, you know, it's a lot more competitive than a lot of them realize.
Porsche is definitely, you know, they're having their problems. I think they're having a big learning curve because, as you know, they've never really had an open wheel car, so everything's new to them.
If you look at the technological capacity that they have and the resources that they have, that for anyone to think that this is going to be a disaster, I think, is fooling themselves.
Well, as they work on Rick Mears' car, Teo Fabi, the Porsche-powered March, runs in 12th place on the circuit, still in the race. Obviously, Penske Performance thinks they may get that machine back into operation. We are still under yellow. 28 laps are complete, and an interesting tactic as Scotty Brayton in that number 91 car with a Judd engine leads the field around under yellow. We'll be back. You're looking at the number 91 car of Scott Brayton. He is the leader of the race at the moment, and we anticipate coming back to a green flag in just half a lap. Now, he started back in the field, and a nice little ride coming up to the front. He has a different engine. It is the Judd engine. Some people believe that it actually saves on fuel. Let's go down to Jackaroo before we get into that on the Mears machine.
Paul, CART will not allow Rick Mears to restart this race. They say that he's wrecked. He came and made repairs here. They will not allow it. Let's go back to you.
All right, as the green flag comes out after the first yellow of the race, and Scotty Brayton comes down to the inside of Teo Fabi. Fabi back in the serial, and Scotty Brayton pulls away. Now, we were talking about this engine, Sam Posey. Some people say it gets better fuel mileage. This is the Judd engine. So perhaps the tactic is to go a little further until that first pit stop if they can.
I personally believe the fuel mileage is not that different on the Judd engine. We will see if Brayton is able to get away with this move. I think it's about the same as the others. What interested me, however, was how that Judd engine out-accelerated. You see a pass there, out-accelerated the Porsche, which is green and white running on the right side of your screen there. The Porsche engine got blown off at the restart.
Absolutely nailed his throttle and really got away from everybody. And the yellow flag flies again. The indication now is that there is debris on the course, so now we have an opportunity to expand on that just a little bit. Now, that could have also been a tactic, Bobby.
Well, it could have been, Paul, but like, for example, Scotty did out-accelerate the Porsche, but I think it was more of a thing of him seeing if the green was going to go, and he's been running a lot more races lately.
All right, let's go down to Scott Brayton's pit. Jerry Gappens is there.
Lee Koonsman, you kept your driver out on that first caution. Is he getting better mileage at this point?
Well, I think our mileage is good, but we're working it very conservatively right now. The Amway car is running very well. We're just playing a real conservative. We wanted to get another 10 laps in from the first yellow.
Is your driver giving you any feedback on the Judd engine? Does it have enough?
I'm sorry, I didn't get
the Judd engine, is it working well for you right now?
I didn't really catch that, but the car is operating well. The track is pretty good. It's a little slippery, but the track is not bad.
Okay, if you pan the camera, you'll see Scott Brayton just now came in, and they're going to go ahead and fuel the car on this caution flag and go back out. So Scott Brayton will now give up the lead in an effort to get full load of fuel and get that Judd engine fired back up and out back on the track, Paul Page.
So the tactics of the race being played right now as they try and figure out how to get their man in front and keep him there. At the moment, they decided to pull Scotty Brayton away from the lead of the race. So Scott Brayton gives the lead now under the yellow to Arie Luyendyk. On Sunday, May 29th, ABC Sports will present the greatest race of them all. Of course, that is the 72nd running of the Indianapolis 500. Last year's champion, Al Unser Sr., will defend his title as the IndyCar drivers vie for auto racing's most prestigious prize. Action will begin live at 11 a.m. Eastern, Sunday, May 29th, right here on ABC Sports. Under the yellow, 35 laps complete. Arie Luyendyk, the number 7 car, is the leader. Now, Luyendyk has not yet made a pit stop, so they're gambling on going a little bit further. Dick Simon, who currently runs in 2nd place, has not stopped either. And Raul Boesel has not stopped, though during that one little bit of green and some of the changeover with the pit stops, Roberto Guerrero was able to move up into 4th place, Bobby Unser.
Really didn't help Scott Brayton very much, and I think that Arie might be making a tactical mistake right now. It's Arie right on the screen now, and I think he might have made a mistake by not pitting right now. When you have a yellow at this time in the race, it's customary just to go ahead and go for it and make a pit stop so you can stretch out and look for the next yellow a little bit further down the road.
So Arie Luyendyk leads it. His teammate and actually owner of the team, Dick Simon, runs in second place right now. As we are ready to go back green once again, there is the flag. Ari Leyendijk takes it. Roberto Guerrero comes up and brushes the wall if he doesn't tag it, but he has it back under control. Made a jerk over to the right, back in. That was Guerrero's brightly colored car there, the number 2 machine, who is tucked in right now behind the 30 car of Raul Boisel, and he is trying to come up through the field. Boisel got a bit ahead of Guerrero, and this is really a fight now for third place.
We talked about the consequences of racing on such a tight track at such high speeds. We've seen Rick Mears pay the price so far. It's a very volatile race with Rahal, Holmes, Fittipaldi, Mears, Sullivan, all in trouble this early. These are favorites potentially in this race, and I think there's a lot more of this yet to come.
We talk about this as having a straightaway and a dogleg. Let's go back just a second and take a look at Roberto Guerrero as he comes to the green flag. But that's the leader in real time right there, Ari Leyendijk. This is coming to the green flag now. The black car is Ari Leyendijk. And Sam Posey, you watch that brightly colored car, the number 2 machine of Guerrero, as he comes to the outside.
And you see right there where he does he make contact with the wall?
Looks like he touched tires with Simon.
Yeah, he actually didn't touch the wall, Paul, but he did get a little bit loose. I think he touched tires with Simon. Definitely laid some black rubber out on the racetrack, that's for certain sure.
So Roberto Guerrero and his team now have to wonder a little bit, did that touch, light as it might have been, do any damage to the suspension?
No, it won't. At the speed they were going and at the amount of energy between the two of them, there would be nothing that's going to happen there, Paul.
We talk about how complex, how tight this track is. 170-plus miles an hour down the main straightaway. We talk about the main straightaway. Bobby Unser, to a driver, there really is no straight here.
Oh, it doesn't last very long. Boy, you come off the turns and there's Emil Fittipaldi slowing down again, but you come off the turn, the straightaway lasts just for a few seconds, and boy, you're right back into a turn again.
Emerson Fittipaldi not a factor in this race. Let's go down to the pits once again. Jerry Gaffins is with Rick Mears.
Rick's returned to his Penske pit. Rick, what happened exactly on that incident?
Well, basically, I came up behind Foyt, and I believe it was Randy Lewis, and Foyt was going around Randy Lewis, and I believe it was Randy Lewis, the 24 car. And so I was just following Foyt. I was taking it easy. The Pennzoil car was just working excellent, you know. And gave him plenty of room. Foyt went by him, so I went by him. And when I got to a point that I could no longer see the front of his car beside me, I knew we had him, you know, we were past him. And then right after that, he hits me. I don't know why. I don't know what the deal was. We were already by him. If he couldn't see me, he shouldn't be on the racetrack.
No chance to correct whatsoever then?
No. Once it bump you like that and knocks you sideways, you're just along for the ride. And we talked about that in the drivers' meeting, everybody being very careful because this track is tough for that. You know, obviously, I should not have passed him in that particular spot.
Okay, Rick Mears would like to have that lap back over, Paul Page.
Well, you seldom hear Rick Mears quite that outspoken. Obviously, he thought he had this race bought and paid for. He was running very well.
And there is Randy Lewis briefly in our shot. He did not pay any consequences for what happened there. And that is so often the case, isn't it, Paul?
Well, he did pay in terms of a rather long pit stop. He's still in the action. But no, that's exactly right. The guy who is in front and will cause the problem often is the one with the least damage, if any at all, and he goes merrily about his way while taking a leader out of the race. So Ari Leyendijk leads the race, and he is being chased now by Mario Andretti. Mario Andretti now runs in second place. Dick Simon runs in third. Raul Boisel runs in fourth. And Roberto Guerrero is in fifth. Ari Leyendijk.
He is about 2.5 seconds ahead of Mario Andretti. And Andretti, you see in the lighter colored car right there, those of you familiar, I'm sorry, I think I may have made a bad call on Mario going by. Those of you familiar with his red car from last year adjust to the fact that it is now a white car this year. It is still a Lola, and it still is Chevrolet powered. But Mario Andretti right there, yes, is pursuing Ari Leyendijk from a distance now of 3.3 seconds back. So he is falling back and about to come up, I believe.
We'd have to say this is one of Leyendijk's best races. Wouldn't you say, Sam?
Yes, and of course he finished third here last spring, as you remember, Bobby. So this is obviously a track on which he does extremely well. Leyendijk so far, there you see Mario Andretti. That's the new look of his team this year. He was so much bad luck last year, winning only 2 races, and of course that heartbreak loss at Indianapolis, maybe the color change will bring him some luck this year.
So Ari Lyondike has been averaging about 105 miles an hour average speed of the race. He's been turning laps at 153. A new team with Dick Simon this year, and we asked him what adjustments you have to make joining a new team.
Not really a whole lot, just getting to know the new people, the mechanics, and my new car owner, Dick Simon, this year. Get to know him, how he thinks about things, and so far we're pretty much on the same level. Growing up in Europe, I used to be my own truck driver, mechanic, and everything, so I understand where he comes from. If you talk about running on a lower budget than other teams, he knows how to make more out of a dollar maybe than, or he's willing to make more out of a dollar than other teams, and that's something that I can appreciate.
Ari Lyondike running in the lead. Dick Simon's cars are first and third. Ari Lyondike on his way, hopefully, for his first victory. But there is a very long way to go. Another 150 miles an hour. Lyondike followed by Andretti, then Al Unser Jr. International Raceway, the CART Indy cars in their first race of the 1988 season. That magnificent black number 7 machine belongs to Ari Lyondike. It is one of Dick Simon's stable. Dick Simon currently runs in 4th place, but his teammate Ari Lyondike, new to the team, runs in the lead at the moment. 2nd place is Mario Andretti. Al Unser Jr. is in 3rd right now. We've had the leader, Rick Mears, very early on at lap 20 involved in an accident as he touched wheels with Randy Lewis. Mears out of the race, and Randy Lewis continued on.
You see right there the battle for 3rd, 5th place between Raoul Boesel and the red, white, and blue car, leading in effect there in this battle for 5th place. And in the brightly colored car, it's Roberto Guerrero.
Guerrero coming up behind. That's a slower car in between the two.
Is it? Yes. It's John Andretti. I don't believe it is slower. Paul, I think he's in 6th place, so this is a terrific battle. And Michael Andretti in the blue and yellow car right there. So 2 Andrettis who are, by the way, first cousins. There is the view from Michael Andretti's car. Roberto Guerrero just ahead of him there on the right.
Roberto's not been going quite as fast as he has been in practice in the qualifications. I think he's been having some sort of a handling problem that you'll probably, during the next pit stop, adjust it a little bit. Also, this is slow for Michael Andretti. If we remember last year, Michael led almost all the races throughout the season at one time or another.
He's had a slow start this year, Bobby, because of the accident that he had here on February 18th. He had a major crash right about there, as a matter of fact, on the track. So their whole program has been set back and their timetable screwed up by that accident.
Michael Andretti currently runs in 8th. Just in front of him, that's Roberto Guerrero. And John Andretti runs in 6th down on the inside. Look at how they come off the car, and Guerrero seems to get a much better exit to the corner as Guerrero works his way through traffic.
Yes, he does, and way wide, too. That's trouble up there, but, oh, boy, Guerrero is good on this racetrack. He just has an extra sense for it, and by the way, it's just wonderful to see him back in great racing form. I mean, remember, here is a man who lay unconscious for 17 days, and he is now able to perform at this kind of efficiency again. It's fantastic.
That certainly was shaky boo right there.
Yeah, I don't think he intended that, do you?
Get out of the gray stuff's not the place to be, so Roberto did a nice job of just saving it.
That was probably a time he would intentionally rather forget. Incidentally, that view from Michael Andretti's cockpit suggests his car not handling that well, Bobby. Wouldn't you interpret that as a little push? He's having to turn the wheel a little more than I think he'd like.
We watch Michael Andretti, and that is his cousin John, the son of Aldo Andretti, Mario Andretti's twin brother, that he is battling with.
I was doing some interviews with these guys the other day, and I was talking to John Andretti, who's right ahead of Michael now, and right at the end of the interview, he said something like, I said, do you think the Andretti name has helped you a lot in racing? And he said, well, no, it really hasn't helped me at all, and neither has my cousin or my uncle. And Michael was sitting right in the background, and he said, I'll help you now.
One of the cars with trouble very early on. In fact, out on the pace lap was Emerson Fittipaldi. He's with Jerry Gapp.
Oh, no.
Got a car
right there. We just see it there from Michael Andretti's car. I think
that is Dick Simon's.
Yes. Yep. Between turn 1 and turn 2. Dick Simon, who was doing so well moments ago, he was running, in fact, in 4th place, has buried it into the turn.
Oh, he's hit her ton there. Look at that wheel wrapped all around.
Probably right in the transmission part of the engine.
I just hope he's okay. I just hope he's okay, Bobby. Safety team is there with him. They react very quickly. Paramedics, extrication experts right on the scene. They're asking him, is he okay? Is he entrapped? They don't want to make any sudden moves in case he is hurt. They don't want to make it worse.
But this is an older man, remember. He is 53, 54 years old and not able to bounce back as easily as some of the younger guys.
So the yellow flag is out. 65 laps of the 200 are complete. Ari Leyendijk, with a definite advantage with his second yellow, is the leader. Followed by Mario Andretti, Al Unser Jr., Roberto Guerrero, and out of the race. He was in for a routine pit stop, taking advantage of the yellow, and as they disconnected the hose with the refueling rig, fuel squirted about. It ignited. Several of the crew members began sprawling on the ground. Here is what happened just moments ago. They're ready to pull the fuel line. Now watch, you see a burst of flame at the back of the car. It seemed really to start at the back. They pour water on it. Now water will dilute the alcohol field down. Then mass confusion in the pits as everybody ran for safety and ran for cover. Several of the crew members were rolling on the ground. There you see that. As they dump water on them again, that dilutes the fuel. Normally you wouldn't fight a petrochemical fire with water, but with alcohol you can because it takes it down so it won't burn any longer. Leyendijk tried to stay in the car, and Leyendijk is out. Let's go down to the pits. Jack Arute is there. Jack, are you there?
Well, Paul Page, Ari Leyendijk is with us right now. You're soaked, but that's a safety measure. Yeah. A tough way to go, Ari.
Well, the Profimi fuel car was just running absolutely beautiful. I mean, we didn't make a pit stop, granted, but I was waiting just for that yellow to come out, and it came out, and I think we would have been fine all day. The car just ran beautiful.
Now, the fire seemed innocent enough initially. You stayed in the car when the fire first ignited, and then it seemed to get progressively worse and worse. Finally, you bailed out of the car and rolled right down the nose.
Well, they want me in the car.
Well, there you have it. He's going to go back out there. Now, let me update you as well on the condition of a couple of his crew members. One crewman was injured. He's been burned, and he's being removed and being tended to right now by the ambulance behind me. But they're going to try and put this car back out on the racetrack. Now, several other incidents today that have required the ambulance attention. One specifically earlier today. A wheel came off Bob Rosberg's car during a Pro Mazda race earlier this morning, and it hit 4 people on pit road. Rick Schroeder, a CART observer, sustained head injuries along with Bill Bowie, the leader CART racing team. Now, he suffered head, hip, and lower extremity injuries. What happened is a tire right behind me at the start-finish line during that Rosberg incident came dislodged off of Rosberg's car, hit those 2 gentlemen, then carried on further down this pit road and hit another 2 people. Those 2 people, also from CART, were examined, but they were released from the hospital. The 2 that we just spoke about are resting comfortably in guarded condition at a hospital in Phoenix. Pete Felder of the mechanics racing team and John Kirschenbauer were also hit, as we said. They were examined here at the Speedway, and they have since been released. In fact, they're working on pit road. But let's bring you back up to speed. Schroeder and Bowie are in Good Samaritan Hospital in Phoenix, both listed in guarded condition. Gentlemen, this is not a very safe place to be. You've got to keep your wits about you.
And we'll keep track of that story. And as a matter of fact, those 2 conditions have now been upgraded from guarded to stable condition. So that's some good news. Now the situation is this: Dick Simon, who is the owner of this team, spun, caught the wall on the approach to 2, bringing out the yellow. The leader of the race, his teammate Ari Leyendijk, went in for a routine stop. They've been holding off on the stop, hoping for just such a yellow, but certainly not hoping for it to be the teammate. While they were refueling the car, a fire broke out, and as a result of that fire, a couple of crew members were burned. They're treating them now. Ari Leyendijk jumped out of the car and is now back in the machine, and they anticipate trying to restart it. As a result of all that action, with 71 miles of the 200 miles complete, Mario Andretti is now the leader of the race. There is Mario, brand new sponsor on that car. We're all accustomed to a bright red car, and it's very strange at the start of the year looking at new machinery and saying, whoa, who is that? And then you catch a glimpse of the helmet, and you say it's Mario. The pace car comes down the pit road, the green flag in the hands of the starter once again, and Mario Andretti is the leader of the race, though he is back in the starter serial, coming across the line. Al Unser Jr. is running in second. Roberto Guerrero is third.
Well, it's been a crazy mixed-up race here. Larry Leyendijk Jack was doing awfully good, as you just mentioned, but we have Mario back up in the lead right now. There's John Andretti. There's a boy that's really been doing good in the green car. That's his Uncle Michael coming around him now.
Uncle Mario, yes, indeed. You know, this may seem trivial to you gentlemen in the wake of all that has just happened, but it's extraordinary to me that Arie Luyendyk at the present, after all that, to mention his sponsor in the first sentence of that interview. I mean, that man must have absolute ice water in his veins. You see what I mean?
Sam, I don't think he ever really got the fire. The fire was coming from the alcohol spilt down in the body and stuff, and I think Arie finally got out just because there was too much attention to the fire, but I don't think he really got it. But the crewman, for certain, sure had a lot of problems. The car, I don't think really got burned bad. I think it just got to be a fast fire, and so the people will know you can't see an alcohol fire in the daylight.
All right, let's go down to Dick Simon's pit once again. Here is Jack Arute.
Sam, you alluded to that sponsor mention. Well, he has a good teacher. Dick Simon is one that's known to get sponsors whenever he has to. But today, Dick, you were up front. You were one of the hot leaders. Your teammate Luyendyk was leading until the fire, and how quickly it all changed. First of all, what happened to you?
Well, on one of the restarts there, Guerrero, his left front and my right rear kind of touched. And I guess I must have got a little bit of a slice in the tire or something, but I didn't feel a thing until it exploded. Going into turn one, the right rear exploded, and I couldn't save the car. But I felt so happy because the cars were both handling superb.
Well, talking about handling superb, Arie Luyendyk is pulling back out onto the racetrack, and that's just incredible to keep the poise that the entire team did during that fire. It could have been really bad, but only one of your crewmen has been removed to the care facility here.
Jack, we're very proud of our crew. You know, people make everything happen, and without the crew and the equipment, it just doesn't happen.
Let's check in with Jerry Gaffins real quick. We've got another story.
Thank you.
Emerson Fittipaldi out of the race with electric problems. Emerson, a crazy day so far. Is it just first race jitters for most of these drivers and teams today?
You know, it's very disappointing. Like, my Marlboro car was well prepared. We worked all the winter to the first race and just run out of luck, and I had an electrical problem in the car.
Emerson Fittipaldi, a two-time world champion, calling it racing luck today.
You know, in some ways, Jerry and Jack, you know, in some ways, racing like this is a condition akin to wartime, really. And when something goes wrong, it doesn't mean you quit. You saw the example of the Penske team trying to get their car approved by the officials so it could continue to run. You saw Luyendyk get back in a car and now resume in the race. So, I mean, these guys do not give up just because something bad has happened.
All right, the yellow and blue car, number 18, is Michael Andretti. You are now on board as he works his way through the first and second turn. Now, Michael runs, actually has been able to move up a little bit now and is running in about 7th place. And right alongside, just behind him, is the man running in 2nd place right now. That's Al Unser Jr.
Al Unser Jr., of course, has joined a new team, and for him it's an old team, the Gallus team from Albuquerque. So it's a home team scene now because he's driving for a team based in the same city in which he lives. And Al Unser Jr., always a bad qualifier, this time had a marvelous qualifying run into 4th place, and he has a very strong run going right now as he holds down 2nd place. This is an extremely promising beginning to this season for Al Unser Jr.
On board
Al Unser Jr. looks like he's coming to the pits right now, Paul. There's going to be something probably wrong. I don't think he should be scheduled right now.
No,
we'll
he shouldn't be scheduled because the team is just putting out equipment. They were not ready for him. Just as I said those encouraging words about him, trouble was striking in that car.
Now, this is the March car. Both Michael and little Al, as you were talking a little while ago, are in March cars. The March cars seem to have had a little bit of problem this year. He's got the steering wheel off. This means that he's got some sort of a bad problem. Yeah. That most likely means that an engine is blown or transmission is broken in the thing.
But he showed speed, and like Mears and a couple of the other guys we've seen go out of the race, Luyendyk, of course, delayed, they have a lot to look forward to, don't you think, in this season?
They do, Sam, for sure. Now, that's another Chevrolet engine. We're not knowing for sure how many problems Chevrolet is having, but remember last year, Chevrolet had a lot of problem with their engine. They've taken over the program as far as calling the shots on the engine. They've made a lot of parts stronger in them. We didn't expect problems from them today.
But there's a Chevrolet in the lead right there in that car of Mario Andretti.
So Mario Andretti is now the leader of the race. He has a full straightaway lead on the second place car of Roberto Guerrero. We've got a problem on the main stretch.
John Andretti, who's had such a fine run, is now sliding sideways up the middle of the main straight. Luckily, not too much traffic bearing down on him. I think it's going to be a one-car incident.
A quick little spin. He did keep it away from the wall. Bobby Unser, there's a bump there coming off that corner that if you hit it just wrong, that's what's going to happen.
Yes, and it's if you get low, and I think possibly, we'll see a replay in a moment, but John might have just shook the rear end loose. You can kind of follow his tracks back and see that's just where that little bump that you were talking about is.
So we're at Phoenix International. I'm Paul Page, Sam Posey, Bobby Unser.
The tire on the right rear in John's car is flat, Paul. That really could have been the problem.
Oh, Bobby, I don't think so. All 4 tires are nearly flat-spotted by the slide. See, look at him. I think that's what happened. He was just sliding dead sideways down the track.
All right, let's take a look at it. This is a camera mounted right on the wall. You can see him down low at the apex of the corner. Lost it very early in the corner.
He was too low. Don't you agree, Bobby?
Yes.
He hooked it. He was too low down. That's what happened. He was giving it a terrific ride, and sometimes when a young driver, especially an inexperienced one, gets really racy and really competitive, he'll start to pinch it down, and that part of this track is the worst place to do that.
All right, so it is John Andretti that brings out the yellow flag with 86 laps complete. Mario Andretti is the leader of the race. We'll be back with more exclusive coverage of the Checker 200 after this commercial and a word from our local complete of the 200-mile schedule, 200 laps. Mario Andretti is the leader. Roberto Guerrero has moved back up into second place, followed by Royal Boiselle, Scott Brayton, Michael Andretti. And let's take a look at what this race has really brought us so far. It's been a very busy, very confused race in many ways. Within the 89 laps, we've had 4 leaders, and the lead has changed 4 times. But we've also had a series of caution lights that have slowed the average speed of the race down to just above 108 miles an hour. 7 cars are out of the race. Perhaps most notably is Rick Mears, who brought out the first yellow, and Dick Simon, who brought out a yellow flag, and then his teammate. Let's take a look at this list. Danny Sullivan first out his engine. Then Rick Mears, the crash on the main stretch, just a quick little spin. Then Emerson Fittipaldi, who had his problems on the pace lap. Finally, his engine gave up for the day. Dick Simon, in the first turn, tapped the wall after touching tires with another car. Also, we have Jones and Unser Jr. now being reported out with engine problems. So we're under yellow. 90 laps are complete. Let's go to the pits and Jerry Gappens.
Al Jr., what put you out?
We had engine problems.
Any indication before it went away for you? It's a brand new power plant for you.
Yeah, it is. You know, the Chevrolet engine's doing really great, and we as a brand new team are having teething problems, I guess, and but it's running good. We just something went away on it. I don't know exactly what, but it started going away, and it took it about 4 or 5 laps for the vibration to get really bad, and so it went away.
Okay, Al Jr. had to park it today, Paul Page.
Well, car number 6 is Mario Andretti. He leads this race as the pace car comes into the pits, and we wait for the green flag once again, and we are racing. So Mario Andretti leads. Roberto Guerrero would be the main way making the challenge, but between Guerrero and Mario is son Michael, who could play a spoiler to this race right now. Michael actually runs in 5th place off of the leader lap.
Yes, Roberto Guerrero is going to have to, in effect, put a lap on Michael Andretti before he can get to grips with Mario Andretti. Are team tactics, or let's say family tactics, a factor here? I doubt it very much. This game is much too dangerous. Incidentally, Paul and Bobby, looking down that interesting summary board, you notice the only reasons people are out of this race are either blown engines or crashes. And I think it attests to the high level of preparation in the race these days that the small things don't seem to go wrong anymore. It's something big that puts you out.
Mario Andretti comes to the line as we take a look at the time between 1st and 2nd place. There comes Guerrero, 3.6 seconds. On this track, that kind of time is meaningless. You can make that in just a blink of an eye.
It certainly can, Paul. In fact, we're lucky if we don't have any more yellows. You know, we didn't hardly have any problems during practice or qualifying. And we got to thinking this race could possibly be an all-green race. But it isn't going to now, that's for sure.
On the back stretch, the car in the center is Raul Boiselle. Scotty Brayton is just behind him. Boiselle currently runs in 3rd place. And
given Michael the move-over flag, but I don't really think that Michael's going to move over. He needs a yellow so he can close up that lap, because he looks like he's leading the race, and yet Guerrero's the one that's doing it.
There's action between 2 people who've been extensively delayed. Lion Dyke in the black car, and of course Bobby Rahal, the defending CART champion, in the red car. Those are both many laps adrift. Not a factor here, but racing each other nevertheless.
certainly going to stay out, at least try to find something out of the cars and the new configuration.
And you're in that car, you're going to race it, you know? You don't just go round. The race is less than half over. They could still get a good finishing position if they just keep chugging away at it.
Based on the attrition to this point, that's absolutely true, and that's generally what Phoenix will do to the field. You have an opportunity to run 7th, 8th, or 9th, and then something happens, and all of a sudden you're sitting up in 3rd.
There's Mario Andretti, our leader, and yes, Paul, I do agree with you, but this is still an exceptional race. I mean, when you consider the number of incidents that we've had so far, if it continues like this, maybe you and Bobby and I will go down and finish the race in rent-a-car.
I think I'll leave it to you guys. You know how to do it much better than I. It's much more comfortable watching from the grandstand. Mario Andretti has the most starts here on this track. 35 different times he started at Phoenix, and 21 times he's led the race. Look at him wave as he goes past the slower car, getting him out of the way. Mario Andretti won in 66 and 67. He's not won recently, as we're just 3 miles away from the halfway point now. There are your leaders, Mario, followed by Guerrero. We look at the bottom half of the top 10. A.J. Foyt. Boy, there's the name. Qualified well. Actually qualified 7th and is feeling very racy. He said earlier in the year he was definitely going to do some serious racing. Of course, he said that almost every year, but I think he plans to actually get it done this year.
Well, he actually bought a spot in the owners of CART, Paul, so he belongs to the CART Car Owners Association now for the first time, so that's kind of an indication that he's planning to run all year.
And if he does, he may definitely be a factor to contend with. Mario Andretti, car number 6, is the leader. We asked Mario earlier, what part of the track is really the key for a fast, smooth lap?
This track is it's one of many that require a definite compromise in the setup. Everyone will tell you, well, the car does one thing on turn 1 and 2, and it will do something else in turn 3 and 4, which means you have to, somewhere along the line, get a happy medium. You cannot get the car or expect to have the car perfect for one side and be able to be at its best on the other side. So it's a definite compromise track here, and that's what you strive for during all the testing, all the running that we do here. And however, even after you have a compromise under certain conditions, the next day or whatever, for whatever reason, conditions have a way of changing here. This track is like a capricious lady. You know, they just you just don't know whether she likes ice cream today or club soda. You know, and so it's the type of thing that you just have to chase it all the time.
So Mario Andretti lays some laps down, and some observers have him above 182 miles an hour. So he's laying down some quick ones.
Capricious lady was the way he described this track.
Such an eloquent man.
Doesn't he have a wonderful feel for things? There's A.J. Foyt, currently 6th. Yep. In that.
Once again, changing color schemes. Every year he comes out, it seems, when he won Indy in 77, bright orange car. And every year a little bit more orange goes away. It's barely pinstriped in orange now.
Maybe he thinks that'd be good luck for him, Paul, but
he's a superstitious guy, isn't he?
Well, he is to some degree.
Yeah.
And Foyt is racing hard today. I've watched him during practice and qualifying. He doesn't do a lot of talking to anybody. He's just getting down to serious racing like he used to.
So A.J. Foyt, the famous car number 14. Racing, doing a very fine job, running in 6th place.
You know, Paul, I have an idea that if A.J. could get near the end of one of these races so he could really feel the sense of a finish looming up, he would come the old Foyt again and we really see something from him. He usually breaks down too soon.
I think that there is still a couple of victories in A.J. Foyt's bag of tricks. At Phoenix, now 105 miles are complete. Mario Andretti is our leader, looking for his first win in over 11 years. Car number 6, Mario Andretti, as he works his way around this track, coming to the line once again, completing 112 miles. And we watch now for the second place car, Roberto Guerrero. There he comes to the line at 6.1 seconds. Now, he has been dropping steadily backwards just a little bit, and it seems like he's running all over this racetrack, having trouble with the handling. I want to make a point. A couple of moments ago, I really thought you guys would catch me. I mentioned that one of the observers, actually one of the computers, caught a lap at 182 miles an hour, which is just simply not in this year or the next 5 or 6 years at Phoenix. The pole speed here, only 165 miles an hour. So it shows that not only the computers in the cars, those black boxes, suffer from the heat, but some of our equipment does as well.
Paul, it merely shows your credibility is so immense that Bobby and I absorbed that. Incidentally, these cars, most of them have 2 gears right at the top of the transmission, 5th and 6th gears, that are almost exactly the same. Mario's probably using the taller of the 2 right now.
So Mario Andretti leads it. Roberto Guerrero runs in 2nd place. Guerrero, here is a man who has been an incredible story since this race 1 year ago. A year ago, he was the winner. He had a great season ahead of him, and then there were problems. Let's go back and relive this up and down season of Roberto Guerrero.
For Roberto Guerrero, 1987 was the best of times and the worst. At Phoenix, he started last and won.
I never even dreamed that I could win the race from back there. In fact, it was Vince that kept telling me, he said, oh, you can still win it and whatever, but I didn't really believe it. So it was really amazing. When we had the first yellow, and I found myself, I was already up to 9th or something. And then I came on the radio and said, hey, guys, we're in this race now. So, you know, from then I knew that, you know, the car was working so well that I knew we had a chance.
When you took that checkered flag, what were your feelings?
Oh, it was just unbelievable. You know, it's like, you know, finally we've done it. So it was a big relief.
5 months later, the joy of winning faded and was replaced by fear. A crash during testing left Guerrero in a coma, and for 17 days he hovered near death. When he finally awoke, it was obvious that the road to recovery would be a very long one. By January, though, he was back behind the wheel, and his outside pole run this weekend seems to indicate that his recovery is complete. But whispers center around one question. Under racing conditions, can he still win?
It's always going to be a little bit of wondering, you know. I said, I mean, am I still going to be okay? I can't wait to have the couple of first races go well, and then hopefully I'll forget about it and everybody else will forget about it, and we'll just get on with business as usual. But I'm sure it's gonna last for a while.
Well, if there is any question about Guerrero's ability to drive and race, it is certainly gone now. Look at that magnificent year, and remember that in the midst of all that, this man, but for the want of a pit stop, nearly won the Indianapolis 500-mile race. Roberto Guerrero currently runs in 2nd place.
He's very much of an athlete, Paul. He's a very dedicated young man, and he's come back a long ways from his injuries.
The fight here is for 3rd place. Raul Boesel is that red, white, and blue car, number 30, out of the Shearson stable. Scotty Brayton in the number 91 car is just behind him.
I had a race against Scotty Brayton at the very beginning of his career, and he demonstrated to me, this is even before he got into organized racing, he was still in a driving school situation. He showed me immense ability, but the road to actual stardom has been very rocky for him, and I'm glad to see him having this race. You see Mario Andretti coming along on the outside of Scotty Brayton now. Years ago, he might have flinched in a situation like this. Today, he is a veteran coping beautifully with it. Mario gets by cleanly.
Scotty Brayton, another 2nd-generation driver. His father, Lee Brayton, a very skillful driver on his own. And Scotty is out of Coldwater, Michigan, so he's got a little input, too, from Gordon Johncock as well, coming from the same area.
He's been coming into his own rights here in this race today, Paul. I think the owners of that boy are going to be real happy.
I think there's no question about it. You hand him a good piece of equipment, and he's going to make it go fast.
Well, some people have sold him short sometimes, and I don't think he's always had the best equipment, but today it sure looks like he does.
For the moment at least, Mario Andretti is running away with this race. He is well out in front in that number 6 car, finally working his way up to the front of the field. But Roberto Guerrero suffering some problems. Perhaps Jack LaRouche can give us an update on that situation. Jack?
Paul, we've seen Roberto Guerrero get beaten up just a bit out on the racetrack, what with dents and dings with other cars. But here's what's going on in their pit right now. Roberto is reporting that his car has gotten progressively looser and looser as the day's gone on. They've checked the tire stagger with these radial design tires. You can't get a lot of stagger with these. They don't particularly have the right stagger to solve the looseness problem. So in the next pit stop, which should come in about 8 laps, they're going to make a major wing adjustment in hopes of getting him back to the competitive speeds that he showed earlier in the race so that maybe he can run down Mario Andretti for the finish.
All right, Jack refers to looseness just as you see Roberto Guerrero there. What that means is just that the back of the car is sliding out a lot. And when you consider that the turn speeds here are in the 145 to 150 mile an hour range, even in the race, you know that you do not want that car trying to spin out on you. And imagine Roberto is definitely looking forward to this pit stop so he can get that corrected.
Loose is oversteer, of course, one condition you don't want at Phoenix. Mario Andretti, the leader of the race. Well, it's been a long, long time. In fact, 11 years since he's won a race here, and Phoenix has not been good at all to this man. Will this be the day that that spell breaks? And if that is true, is that a prediction that the spell at Indianapolis of bad luck might be broken as well?
Well, you can't tell about that, Paul, but we've had so many things happen at Phoenix today. How do you know what's going to happen? Mario is more than capable of winning just about any race he gets into. Today, it looks like he's having a little bit better luck. Now we have Roberto still falling slowly back. Not very fast, but he's still in second place, slowly kind of falling back.
Worked his way around the 14th car of Derek Daly.
As soon as he comes in, he'll probably lower the front wings on it, put a little less angle on the front wings. That should fix up the rear end so it get a little tighter.
But as you alluded to at the starting of this race, it is very tough to tune that car back to the track once the tuning goes away. So Mario Andretti leads it, followed and being chased by Roberto Guerrero. They are the only two on the lead lane. He slowed down, the yellow flag came out, and Mario Andretti rolled into the pits. Actually, you couldn't ask for more perfect timing if you were going to request the yellow flag. This should put Mario Andretti as the leader of race within striking distance of the checkered flag. He should not have to stop again. 15 seconds, and Andretti is back into the action. That's just enough to fuel the car. The second place car, Roberto Guerrero, the number 2 machine, rolls in for some of Vince Granatelli's service, and they fall on the car, refueling the machine, and this is the stop in which perhaps they will be able to change the handling and help Roberto.
Well, it's what he's going to have get going faster, and that's the question. They're changing the left front wing on the car, lowering that and lowering the right front wing. We thought maybe they were going to put a little bit into the rear wing, Paul, but they did the 2 front wings. That should cure his handling problems.
You saw them make the adjustments down at the front of the car. Now the question is, it was in fact Vince Granatelli that told us yesterday a quarter of a turn can be too much, can put you totally out of the ballpark. When they go back to the green flag, Roberto Guerrero will have a new car, but he doesn't have any idea what it's going to do to it.
They've guessed. That's all there is to it. They guessed, and they had to move very, very quickly.
Mario Andretti, the leader of the race.
Here's Roberto leaving the pits. He touches another car. We'll see it coming up right here. I don't think it was enough to hurt him at all, but you know, it just proves these are very wide cars. They're 6.5 feet wide, incidentally, and much of the car is really unseen behind the driver.
The road leading, Sam, goes down into a 1 lane, really maybe a lane and a half. So both cars are trying to get into the same thing, and that's the reason they touch.
And you know, when you're coming out of the pits too, Bobby, you know what I mean, and you're fighting wheel spin and you're trying to get the thing going, you often you're worried about your problems, not somebody coming up behind you, even though you should be, of course.
So Mario Andretti leads it. That car that Guerrero just gently kissed was Billy Vukovic III, son of one very proud father, by the way. He just thinks this neat as can be to see his son, and of course that's a grandson of the Indy champion from the early 50s. Bill
Third
Vukovic,
generation.
You bet.
Do you think they get progressively better or progressively worse?
Well, I'll tell you, he is one very sharp young man. Looks a lot like his grandfather. Doesn't have the height of his father. And nice, compact, almost Mario Andretti.
Better for racing, actually.
Absolutely.
And here comes John Andretti's back out on the track, too. He's just coming in the pits now. There's his Uncle Mario going by. So Mario still leading the race under the yellow.
Mario Andretti leads the race. Roberto Guerrero is second. We are under yellow with 136 laps complete. We take a look at the summary to 136 laps. 4 leaders, 5 changes to the lead. We've had a whole plethora of yellow lights, and they've really slowed that average speed down. Interestingly enough, 2 things have gotten us into cars out of the race, either crashes or engines letting go. Well, this Saturday begins with the World Pro Ski Championship on ABC Sports. Then ABC's Pro Bowlers Tour presents the $500,000 Seagram's Coolers U.S. Open, and ABC's Wide World of Sports features this wild 4.5-mile ride of the Grand National Steeplechase, plus the grueling Baja 1000. We're ready to go back to the green flag as Katie Guerrero watches her husband come down to the line and take the green flag in second place. Now, did they get the job done? Did they get Guerrero's car so that it can handle? Bobby?
Well, I don't know for sure on that part yet. We haven't gone long enough, but I noticed Michael is back up, trying. I think he come unlapping himself a little bit, so he may be vying for position pretty quick on Guerrero now.
We saw that shot of Katie Guerrero. She is just 2 weeks away from having their second child, so we wish her well.
Mario Andretti, the leader of the race. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Paul, that pit stop may have come well within the window or just squeaked into the window to be able to go the distance. The teams feel that they can go 67, possibly 68 laps. That's when they all came in. But take the case of Vince Granatelli's led team. They've said, let's stay poised. We think we've got enough, but we won't know till the end. Shades of last year, don't you remember?
Well, we certainly haven't gone 70 laps without a yellow, and if we would have a yellow, then the mileage would go up. I'd say there's no question about it. 70 laps seems to be a pretty reasonable distance, and they had 70 laps to go to the end of the race. On board with Michael Andretti, currently running in third position.
If fuel does become an issue, Paul, look right behind Michael's hand when he straightens the car out down the main straight, and you will see an adjustable knob. It's white. He can actually turn back the richness of his engine and get better mileage there. This team really squared away, by the way. They know how many laps they've got left in the tank. Right above the top of his steering wheel is a thing that gives him a digital readout of how many laps he's got left before he runs out of fuel.
Well, that may come in handy, Sam, because it's going to be really close. But I imagine what's going to happen is Mario's going to turn his boost down just a little bit, and he's going to try to get a little bit better mileage because if we do have another yellow and the leader doesn't pit, the other cars are just going to be forced to stay out also.
Michael Andretti chases Raul Boisel, 141 miles of the 200 scheduled complete, with Mario still the leader. But look, he is all alone on the lead lap. Everyone else is a lap behind the leader.
There you see the view of turn one now. Michael is letting off here, not using the brakes unless he's grazing himself. He's now back in the throttle and trying for that good exit speed. You see him come right up next to the wall there. Now he's in that dog leg back straight. Flat out, though, flat out.
Of course, they won't let you stand there at the edge of that wall that Michael just came right out against, but if you sneak out there when nobody's looking, which is very seldom, Michael probably comes within 6 inches of that wall. He's very good at judging how wide that car is.
He's also one of the standard cars. Remember, he's in a Cosworth and a March chassis, which he's been with March for a long time. They've been having a little bit of trouble with the Marches at this particular race, as we mentioned earlier, but I think that they'll probably get them worked out a bit later on. March always ends up being one of the better cars.
Yeah, it's funny, except for Mears in the Penske, all the top qualifiers were Lolas. Did you notice that, Cole?
Mario Andretti in a Lola leads this race. Roberto Guerrero in second. Michael Andretti is trying to overhaul Raul Boisel. Boisel's actually off the leader pace 2 laps behind Michael, running in 6th place, but still Michael would like to get around.
Now, Boisel just happened to have come in just before we went yellow the last time, so everybody knows how he got behind all of a sudden. He was running up near the front. The yellow flag came out just after he left the pits. Couldn't have been worse for him.
That's a combination of racing luck and also, though, the fact that it just proves the old adage. The longer you can stay on the track, the more window of opportunity you have for the yellow flag to come out and you get your stop in under the yellow.
Well, it certainly worked out well for Mario. That's Michael's father, Michael, right there that you're looking at. Mario,
his car is handling better, too, Bobby. Look at that. His hand isn't coming up so far. It isn't understeering as much. Do you think the full fuel load made a difference, or do you think they've been able to tune the suspension? Look at how much better his car's working.
I think the full fuel load is probably helping him right now. And plus, remember, the cars are running a little bit slower. The racetrack has a lot of rubber on it, a little bit of oil, and the cars are all slowing down just a little bit now.
By the way, people say, you know, how could you just go round and round and round a racetrack? Wouldn't it get boring? You notice how many split-second decisions go with each lap when he's passing slower cars? And we're not even feeling the change of the track or the lightning fuel load or a myriad of other things going on in there.
A lot of decision-making. You can watch Michael Andretti, too, on the main stretch. He'll just reach up with that hand, give it a little squeeze, try to relax, as he does right there, coming through the dog leg. Michael Andretti, you're riding with him. He runs in third position. The leader is his father, Mario Andretti, and Roberto Guerrero runs in second, trying to play catch-up. So Mario Andretti, a full lap out in front of second place. Roberto Guerrero, 148 miles are complete. We'll be back with more exclusive coverage of the Checker 200 after this commercial. International Raceway with 154 miles of the 200 scheduled complete. I'm Paul Page with Sam Posey and Bobby Unser. Mario Andretti leads this race by a full lap ahead of the second place car of Roberto Guerrero, though Guerrero is moving up and is just behind Andretti and would love to get around him and try to make up that lap. Michael Andretti runs in third, followed by Scott Brayton and A.J. Floyd. Cars out of the race so far. You notice either engines or accidents, and one name you don't see on there is John Andretti. Even though he was in a spin on the main straightaway, they got the car back to the pits. He actually stayed in the car while they lifted it up on the wrecker, drove it around, dropped it on the ground, put some new tires on it, and John Andretti is back running, currently running in 15th position. Now, how did Roberto Guerrero get a lap down? fascinating question. He was on the tail end of the lap when the yellow came out as it was, but this shows you how pre-planning makes a world of difference. The Newman-Haas team loves to pit right at the pit exit. That gives Mario a very fast exit once he's made his stop. It paid off in this case because it allowed Mario as the leader to get a lap on the entire field.
Well, Roberto's right behind him trying to pick it up. Now, if Roberto could pass Mario, remember, he adjusted his wings. If he's definitely handling better, if he can pass Mario, and they have another yellow, he could physically be right back in the race, Paul.
The situation is this. About 42 laps left to go, 42 miles. All fuel tanks on these cars, at least the leaders, should be able to go the distance. So they should be able to go a sprint to the checkered flag. Roberto Guerrero desperately would love to see an opportunity to get around Andretti and then get a yellow light so he could close up behind him. Whether or not that happens is why we're here. A.J. Foyt, now running in 4th place, car number 14. A.J. has not finished at this facility in a long, long time, 1978. We asked him, A.J., why do you keep at it? Why do you continue to race?
I really enjoy it. It's like Arnold Palmer, you know. He still loves the game. I still love my game. And until I lose love for it, or if I felt like I couldn't win, I wouldn't. I'd have a good team. And I'm going to a lot of races this year. I haven't been to, Jackie, and because I'm looking for a young guy, and I'm going to bring him along, and I just want to make sure that I've got the cars, my crew, that can give him #1 performance when I do step aside.
A.J. Foyt, 4 wins at Phoenix International, including the first race, but it was 1978 when he actually last finished one, then finishing in 2nd place to the winner, Johnny Rutherford.
He always talked about the fact that he would give up racing when his long-distance vision began to give up on him. I think he thought that might happen a little bit sooner than this, and in the same way, A.J. has exceeded his own time clock for things. The fact that he's still as capable as he is, I think, surprises him, don't you, Bobby?
He's so strong physically. Racing just doesn't slow him down. It's a mere matter of getting his head and his hands and his feet all coordinated together. The guy has a lot of talent. There's no question about that. Does a good job.
He could be a great car owner, too, Jack Arute was pointing out to me as we drove out this morning. I mean, A.J. has all the contacts with Detroit. He could almost run a Roger Penske kind of situation, I think, if he really made up his mind to do it.
Now, the guys that have driven for him in the past say he's a tough car owner. What does that mean? That means he's a good one. It means he wants to win. Foyt always wants to win.
You know, when he retires, I hope that he does still keep the stable going and takes a couple of good young drivers and teaches them how to race. What a master to learn from.
Exactly. Now, it's interesting that Guerrero, of course, knows that he must get by Andretti if he is going to entertain any hopes of winning this race. He's been able to run right there with him for the last, 5-6 laps we've been watching this. But no, he has not been able to close up enough to really put himself in a position to pass. And just very briefly, one of the reasons it's hard for 2 nearly equal cars to pass is in the new regulations this year, the boost pressure has been dropped down. They have less horsepower than they've had before, and it's a little bit harder. They have about 45 less horsepower, harder to make a pass on the straight.
Well, it should still be equal, Sam, but if we notice that after they adjusted Roberto's wings, now he's come up. He is the aggressor on Mario right now. If he weren't down a lap, it would be very difficult for Mario to pass him. But you watch Roberto, he'll go up there and take a real hard run at Mario. He probably gets the tires a little bit hot, has to back off a little bit like he has now, and now he's coming back up to take another swing at him. Really hard to pass right here.
You have to wonder what's going through Mario Andretti's mind. So many times at so many races, he's doing just what he's doing at this moment, leading a race well out in front. Shades of Indianapolis last year, this race a number of times, and then all of a sudden some $2 part in Mario Andretti's day is done. We don't wish that on him. He is well out in front, and Roberto Guerrero is trying to catch him.
No, but the karma's a little different this time, isn't it? Because he didn't have the pole. He wasn't the early leader with all the attention focused on him. This is the kind of race that other people run to beat Mario. Finally, he's running that kind of race himself. A little more cautious, a strategic race. As the track conditions changed, as other things happened, the race began to come to him.
Look how careful. That was Billy Vukovich, the third, that they just came around. Look how careful Mario has been in passing some of those brand new drivers to this track. He tiptoes up on them, he lets them know they're there, and then he slides past.
Well, after you see what happened to Rick Mears early today, you know why Mario's being so careful. 144, 24.9, 144 miles an hour. That's pretty good for this time of the day. Remember, it's a little bit slower because there's a lot of heat on the track, a lot of rubber on the track, and a little bit of oil.
It's
While
still
we're
a credit to
watching
Vukovich, though, that he stayed in the middle of the road, unlike Randy Lewis, right?
He's doing a good job
Okay,
today.
that's the point.
Yeah, he was the one that yesterday was asking, where should I be? Yeah. By the way, Scotty Brayton, an early leader of this race, has pulled behind the pit wall and is out of the Checker 200 here at Phoenix. Mario Andretti leads it. One lap back is Roberto Guerrero. Will he be able to catch up? That is a question that is about to be answered. Roberto Guerrero with 176 miles of the scheduled 200-mile distance complete. Mario Andretti is a full lap ahead of Roberto Guerrero. In other words, Guerrero must pass Andretti and then come a full lap all the way around if he is to compete with Andretti. And he will have to do it very, very quickly. And there it goes as Guerrero comes around Andretti. Andretti gets bottled up.
Look out, and they may have a yellow because John Andretti is running slowly up the back stretch right now. Whether he can limp around, and no yellow, no, he's pulled in.
So John Andretti slows, and Roberto Guerrero comes around. You just saw that was John Andretti pulling to the side. So Roberto Guerrero has happened exactly what he was hoping for. He is now ahead of Mario Andretti in terms of the lap. He is closing in. He has less than a mile now to catch this white number 6 car. And what would help, of course, is if they go yellow, then he could come all the way around the lap, pull right up behind him, and we would have a race.
Well, I watched Roberto, who's trying so hard right now to put that lap on Mario, or gain the lap back, I should say. He just almost lost it coming off the number 4 corner.
The number 8 car, that is Teo Fabi. Now, it was a question mark. They didn't know whether they run the Porsche chassis or not. They decided not to. It's a March chassis, Porsche engine. He stayed in the race all day, hasn't wavered much from his position. He currently runs in 7th.
Well, it's fantastic that they have the reliability, but sometimes it's discouraging to finish and find you finish that far back. It's sometimes better to break down early and still have the promise of speed. That car has not been fast.
We mentioned earlier in the day, too, the tremendous lines of traffic leading into this track. The attendance, 45,000 people here. That's 10,000 more than at this time last year for this very race. Tremendous success at Phoenix International. Mario Andretti leads the race.
Roberto needs the yellow in order to get back up and have a good race out of it. He almost got it when John Andretti's car quit.
Mario Andretti, here, by the way, is the finals of the Volvo Chicago Tennis. You didn't get to see the doubles finals. Davis, Amalia, Stewart, and Witzkin. Mario Andretti out in front. We mentioned Scott Brayton had his problems. Let's go to the pits now.
Scotty, you ran in the top 5 for most of the afternoon, and now you're out with about 30 laps to go. What's the story?
Well, Jack, it was real unfortunate. The motor just let go, but the Himmelgarn Racing team did an excellent job, and I'd just like to thank Amway, Rain-X, Life Cycle, and United Oil for making all this possible.
Now, look, you've been out of the race for a while, out of racing for a while. You know, one-off rides once in a while. The competitive spirit, does it take a while to get it back, or are you ready for the hunt for the full series?
Well, I tell you, in all my years of racing, I've been waiting for an opportunity like this, and so I have to be very thankful to have it, and I just really look forward to running in all the PPG IndyCar World Series events.
Well, we'll just have to watch this young man, Scott Brayton. Let me update you, too, on the injury sustained by one of Ari Leyendijk's crewmen. Remember that fire that you saw that was so vivid? Well, Luke Wethington, who handles the air jack on the car, suffered some minor first-degree burns on his face. He has been treated, and he's okay. Back to you.
Mario Andretti leads the race. Now, Roberto Guerrero is around him trying to make up the lap. This is the 16 car, Tony Bettenhausen. He's currently running in 6th place, and if he stays there, that will equal his best finish ever on the Phoenix Mile. So Mario Andretti out in front. Roberto Guerrero trying desperately to play catch-up, get around, and perhaps repeat his win of last year. Will it happen? 185 miles are complete. There are 15 miles to go. We'll be back. Watching the white number 6 machine of Mario Andretti. Now, while we were away, Michael Andretti got around his dad. There you're on board with Michael, and he's closing down and doing battle for 2nd place with Roberto Guerrero. Mario has permitted, or it's at least happened to him, that 2 cars, Roberto Guerrero, the 2nd place car, and Michael Andretti, the 3rd place car, have come around Mario and put themselves on the same lap with the leader. But Mario is just a bit behind these 2 cars as Michael Andretti dives to the inside of Roberto Guerrero. Can he get 2nd place? They're side by side through 1. Michael Andretti has it for a moment. Look how close they are. Guerrero darts away from Michael, and Guerrero stays in 2nd.
And see the turbulence there? Now Michael's worst place for the turbulence from Guerrero's car, and he had to fight that and succumb to it, basically.
Right behind that car, the air is tumbling and moving, and if you bring a car that is equipped with as much aerodynamics as these Indy cars are, right up behind it, you get into that turbulence, it throws you all over the place.
This is certainly one of the races of the day, Paul. This is going to be a race right to the end. Now they're going to both turn up their boost, all they have. Remember, this is the position they're going for. So you're going to see them racing really hard. There's not many laps left either.
Bobby, I'm not so sure that those boost controls haven't been all the way up, all the way in this race.
No, I don't think they have. I think they're still pretty tactical. In particular, has been riding a very tactical race. I think he did, in a sense, let those guys by, and a younger, less mature Mario Andretti might not have done that 10 years ago, 12 years ago.
So Mario, in other words, puts himself in a position of where he can watch those that are his challengers.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up, Paul. He's sitting there watching them. He's a lot better off if he could see him. He's controlling this race. He has for a long time.
So the trick is to go as slow as you can and still stay in front. And that's exactly what Mario Andretti intends to do now. He can see Guerrero, second place. He can see Michael, these two cars just ahead of him. So they are just taking their time, watching what's going to happen to second and third, and hope that they don't catch him. We're at the Checker 200 at Phoenix. 195 laps are now complete. Mario Andretti is our leader. In second place is Roberto Guerrero, followed by Michael Andretti. A.J. Foyt runs in fourth, then Raul Boisel, Tony Bettenhausen, Teo Fabi, Kevin Kogan giving that car a nice ride up in 8th place. Ari Leyendijk, who had the fire in the pits earlier, is running in 9th, and 10th place is Howdy Holmes. A.J. Foyt now right behind Mario Andretti. Not a battle for position, but it gives you an idea of how racy A.J. Foyt is.
Oh, he's racy today. He's been racy all day. He's been racy since he got here this week. He may be racing in Indianapolis this year.
Michael has cooled his tires a bit, Bobby. You mentioned that's a tactic that they use, and he is now making his run on Roberto Guerrero, timed, of course, right to the end of the race. I don't personally think he's going to be able to make it happen, but that is what we are seeing him try right now.
What happens is the right front tire just gets hot. They run him so hard, and with the turbulence that you just talked about, that he runs in, with that Michael is running into right now, it just heats up that right front tire. It's the one that gets most of the abuse.
You see those water droplets seeming to move sideways across the screen? We have a small film, a plastic film in front of the camera, and it automatically clears the camera lens every few seconds.
The white flag, one more lap to go to Mario Andretti. The battle appears to be for second place. Mario well out in front. He's ahead of him, can see his son Michael. You are now riding with Michael currently in third. Can Michael catch that car in front of him? That is Roberto Guerrero, the winner of this race 1 year ago.
He's got one lap to do it. This is his next to last chance. There's only one more turn after this. No way, I don't think.
Mario Andretti comes for the checkered flag. There's the checkered. Mario Andretti wins it. His first win here in 11 years. The battle for second continues. Michael Andretti is in third place. That red car just ahead is Guerrero. On to the final turn now. Andretti closes down just a bit, but I don't think it's going to be nearly enough. Roberto Guerrero flashes across in second, followed by Michael Andretti, and A.J. Foyt will finish in fourth. So Mario Andretti wins at Phoenix after a very long dry spell. There is your second and third place car. Guerrero second. Unofficially, Michael Andretti in third. We'll be back.
Mario Andretti has pulled his car into victory lane. Congratulations, your first victory of 1988, Mario. And near the end there, you had a lap on the field, and then you let some of the guys go by. Just some cautious driving, heads up.
Well, obviously, I tried to not to overdo it, and I tried to take care of the car as much as possible. I thought that when we're coming down to the last 10 laps or so, I think maybe it's time to just let him go and slow down, and that's exactly what I did. So the car worked perfectly. All day I had a bit of a cautious start. I just had to get my cockpit adjustments all in shape, and once the track just settled down, the car just went right with it, and it was just beautiful. Terrific work in the pits for my guys, and I'm just so happy for Kmart, Amoco, Rain-X, and Hannah, all this.
You know, we were kidding, Mario. You know, one of your sponsors, they always talk about the blue light special. Attention, blue light special tonight is Andretti, but a guy right behind you that Jerry Gaffins is with, Roberto Guerrero, he had a fine ride as well. Jerry?
Roberto, good comeback. Are you happy with that run, even though it's a little bit short of where you want to be as a race driver?
Yeah, of course, it's always tough to be second, but considering the circumstances and being my first race back, I have to be very happy.
Okay, any tough moments out there mentally when you're going through it? You knew you were back. Did you know you were back when you got in that car?
No, I knew I was back. I never even thought about it.
Okay, Roberto Guerrero, very happy second place finisher, Paul Page.
Well, just as we suggested, it was going to be a race that would answer many questions. There were many asked today, but Mario Andretti answered them all. Finishing first, followed by Guerrero, Michael Andretti, A.J. Foyt in fourth, Raul Boesel, Tony Bettenhausen. Moves up into sixth place, Teo Fabi, the Porsche-powered machine, Kogan, Lyondike, Howdy Holmes, Billy Vukovich the third in 11th. One terrific day. The official order of finish here at Phoenix International, and a prediction of a great IndyCar season to come. Of course, we'll be back 1 week from today. Unofficial order of finish. There's all 23 of them. So the race is run. Mario Andretti proves he is still very definitely a factor to be contended with, as Mario Andretti has won here at the Phoenix Checker 200. This ABC Sports exclusive has been brought to you by Monroe Shock Absorbers. For shocks and struts, America rides Monroe. And by Budweiser, Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. Stay tuned for ABC's World News Sunday and your local news. Promotional fee was paid by Checker Shuck Spragan. Once again, the winner of the Checker 200 is Mario Andretti. This has been a presentation of ABC Sports, recognized around the world as the leader in sports television.